Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are in another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, Peter, how are you today?
Doing all right. You?
I'm good.
And how's the folks out there in real estate land?
Yeah.
A little bit of everything, probably.
Episode number 347, and the title is Unique Ways to Find Creative Real Estate Deals That Realtors Overlook.
Oh, overlook.
And here is the description. Ever wonder why a realtor would bring an investor a real estate deal that will make the investor thousands, if not millions? Think about it. They found the deal, have a contract with the seller, and could easily do the transaction to fill their own pockets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't they do this? In fact, when I first started out, I thought the realtor would do just that, keep the good deals and give me the bad deals. I soon realized why this doesn't happen. And in this episode, I'm going to share with you why they don't do these deals. And even better than that, what your shortest route to finding these deals so you can start to get some big spendable cash without a lot of work or risk. In fact, nowadays, we even have a push-button software that does about 90% to 95% of the work for you, so you can make full-time income working barely part-time. This podcast will give you all the cliff notes of my 30 plus years experience so you can get started as soon as you finish listening today. Interesting, huh?
Oh, you got my attention.
Yeah.
I've heard some of this, but something you said, like, I'm not sure where you're headed, so I'm listening too, folks. Go.
All right, so first of all, let's do some of our housekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening to us on a podcast platform or watching us on YouTube or Facebook or one of those places, we record every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. And we live stream to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you have any questions, you can go to those platforms and you can type in your questions and they come right back to our computer and we'll be able to help you. Also, if you need help or have questions and you want to contact somebody, you can go to WhatsApp Messenger and type in let's talk real estate, or you can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and hit the support button on the top right hand side. Those support tickets come to me directly, and I answer them all. I used to do them a few times a day, but nowadays it's not always every day, but I do get to them within 48 hours. Also, make sure you subscribe to wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Hit the like button if you like us. If you dislike us, that's okay too. We got thick skin. We don't have too much of that, but we do get it. And make sure you leave us a review so we can get our report card. It takes me about 5 or 6 hours a week to write and produce and all this podcast. Plus Emma, my daughter, edits them or doesn't edit them. She uploads them, and of course Peter's time as well. So it takes us a little bit of work to produce these podcasts. So I don't think it would be very unethical for me to ask you to leave us a review. It'll only take you a couple minutes for one of the podcasts, and that's our report card. Okay? So here we go, Peter. Podcast number 347.
Okie doke.
Why don't realtors buy or get involved in the hot deals they bring you? Truth? They aren't trained and don't see these deals as hot.
The end.
Their core training is all about brokering a deal and not stealing or spending the deposit. Before October 1949, there wasn't a Realtor Code of Ethics, and the Realtors Association, or National Association, was not regulating. There was no regulation, so this Code of Ethics wasn't regulated, right? And Realtor would take the deposits, and for most had much time between deals to get paid to live. So they would think, oh yeah, this deal is gonna, this deal's gonna happen. It's an ace in the hole. So they would borrow the deposit money to live on because there was so much time between deals if they were not a good realtor, right? And then the deal would blow up, and they wouldn't have the deposit money to give back to the seller or the buyer. The buyer actually.
That must have been lots of fun.
Yeah, and this is is as big of a secret as the Republicans being anti-slavery party. That's another big secret. I shouldn't be going there, but which, by the way, the Republicans were formed in 1854 as an anti-slavery party.
I was in my dictionary. I have old ones to see what words really meant, and it's in the definition in the Webster's from, 50 years ago that I have on my shelf over here. It's exactly what it says.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, Eric, I was talking to, and I never considered that. I always talk about having misunderstood words and looking up dictionaries. I had never considered the year of the dictionary and what was considered colloquial, in other words, common language.
Yeah.
And so,
or factual until they change it and they twisting things around, which is a communist trick, by the way, to distort the real meanings of words but the real meanings.
So we were looking at dictionaries like from the 50s and then the 80s and the 90s and then again in 2000s, and it was interesting to see the definitions change.
Yep.
Right? So in the beginning, which is kind of funny because I'm not going to get into this whole thing the way I would like to talk about it, that I would talk about at the cigar shop, but I wouldn't talk about it on a podcast, right? Is that the Democrats actually supported slavery. They were the biggest users of slaves.
Yeah.
Right? And later on realized things were changing, so they walked across the aisle and claimed they stopped it when they didn't.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of funny to me because, like the Democrats were the ones that decided that they should have housing authority, and they would build these big apartments or houses outside of town so they could move the poor and the black outside of town because they didn't want them inside of town.
Wow.
Right? It was covert. It was very covert. Yet nowadays they're considered to be pro
minority.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Or claim that they don't like slavery when they were the ones that created it. Right? And they supported it, until the early or mid 1900s.
Well, a liar is a liar is a liar. Sorry.
Right. So
and they stick together. Sorry.
So I'm associating these two myths together because people don't realize that realtors started off as charlatans, as bad people. They were con artists, right? In the early 1900s, and it had to be fixed. And kudos to them. For writing the code and creating an association to regulate it. To be quite honest with you, I kind of talk about it like it's a derogatory thing, which I'm not doing that. It's just a factual thing. But the truth of the matter is I should, and I have considered this, and I talked about it a couple times, and I haven't done anything about it. And one of these days somebody will, and I'll be like, son of a bitch, I should have done that. But the point is that imagine if we did that same exact thing, wrote a code of ethics, and had a national association that regulated creative real estate investors or real estate investors in general, right? And
Yeah.
had them licensed and did everything the realtors did over the last 75 years.
Yep.
It would be incredible.
Yep.
All right, so let me give you an example of why realtors would not buy deals.
Sure.
Okay? So you go to a store and you purchase a pack of smokes,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a cigar,
Mm.
a soda, a candy bar, a newspaper, whatever. You go buy something,
Sure.
right? You use cash.
Mm-hmm.
You give the cashier, you're buying a soda, you give the cashier $20,
Yep.
right? A $20 bill. The cashier gives you back change, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would hope.
Yeah.
We keep going the way we are. It might be more than $20 you'll need for a can of soda. Okay, now watch this. They give you a handful of coins, right?
Yeah.
And they give you a handful of bills.
Mm-hmm. Paper, metal. Yeah.
You don't give this money a second thought because of your education.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I'm going to put it in my pocket, and that's how much I have left to go buy something else.
Sure.
Or
And it
do
works.
something else with that money, right?
Seems to work.
Now, suppose you were educated on coin collection.
Mm.
And you looked at every coin that you could find in your hand. And there's a particular day that the cashier gave you a special coin.
Mm.
Right? One that has a Denver mark on it, or a San Francisco mark on it, or a West Point, or no mint means no mark mint means they were made in Philadelphia.
Ah.
Right? So a no mint mark Roosevelt dime
Mm-hmm.
worth $300. Would you notice it then?
If you knew to look.
Right. How about a 1999 P like in Paul,
Mm-hmm.
Connecticut broad-struck quarter.
Connecticut?
Connecticut broad-struck quarter
No kidding.
is worth $25.
But by the way, because we're in Connecticut, we don't have a mint in Connecticut. It was just the Connecticut quarter.
Yeah, it was called broad-struck quarter. Yeah.
Got it.
How about a 2005 D 5C speared bison Jefferson nickel
Yeah. How much?
worth $1,265?
Excuse me. I gotta go look. Oh, damn it! I just cashed all my coins in. Damn.
I found a quarter. I told you this not long ago. I found a quarter because I would like collect quarters from houses and I put it like in my car.
Yeah.
And I found a quarter. It's on my counter over here. I should have picked it up. When I looked it up, it's worth $4,500.
Jesus.
Right? Go ahead.
We just took all our coins. We just wind up with too many coins, take it, and cash them in, and it wouldn't take them all. It spit out a bunch. We took it on our hands. Went to the bank. I said, "What's wrong with these? They're American." He says, "Oh, those are silver." And I'm like, "Oh, man, pure silver, right? Not the one with the little copper edges." So I hung on to them.
So not to get into coins because I kind of dabble in. I am definitely like our rookies listening to us, our rookies in real estate. That's how I am with coins.
Yeah.
But God damn, Peter, I don't know what it is. They fascinate me. I get magazines and I sit down at night and for pleasure I go through these magazines and I dream about buying something. I buy a lot of them.
Yeah.
But when because real estate, you got money, sometimes you don't, sometimes you do. And I spend way too much money on coins, right? So I regulate myself. And so I'll be like, damn, I wish I could buy that. I'd like to buy some gold coins. They're worth thousands. And I'm not ready to spend that much money, right? So I'm collecting them for my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and they're 4 and 5 or 3 and 5 years old, right? So the funny thing is all these coins I just talked about are common coins still in circulation. But you didn't know that until I just told it to you, right?
That's right.
So literally means to the letter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literally to the letter. Mm. The money slipped through your fingers, literally. Because they gave you change,
Yep.
and you didn't know it. Now, I saw the other day, which I've not used, I'm going to download it on my phone, an app that you can take a picture of a coin and it will tell you what it's worth.
Oh hell, send me that. Send me
Right?
that
I have
link.
an app. I have to find it. I saw it the other day on my phone somewhere, and I think I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I need to go look at it again, because I asked a couple of my buddies about it, and they're like, yeah, or you check the reviews, and they're like, yeah, the values are not always correct. But
No, but if it's just a special coin, that would be enough. Like it's
Yeah,
something.
right.
Don't just put it aside if nothing else.
so that app that we're talking about,
Uh huh.
right? That app is exactly what I'm talking about with our software system for creative real estate deals.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Right? I just thought of it. I didn't write that down. I just thought of it.
No, it's true
So-
though.
But my point is that real estate is the same way, right? And I'm going to prove that to you right now. You go from your house to the store, you go from your house to work, you go from your house to someplace, a mile away. And you drive by hundreds, maybe thousands of houses, probably daily. They're all right under your nose. Just like the coins. But you don't even look. Never mind notice you have a deal you could have made bank on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, my wife is not a very good passenger. She's gotten better because we've been together, believe it or not, Peter, 23 years now. She's my second wife.
Yeah.
So-
and I know her before you guys got married, so I've known her a long time.
Yeah. So she's not always a good passenger. I am a decent driver because I've been driving since I've been 12 years old. I could be aggressive because I learned how to drive in New York. So when I need to get somewhere and I have a time restraint, like we were going to Florida for my dad's funeral. I didn't tell you this. And we got all the way to the airport and she realized she didn't have her driver's license.
Mm.
So I had to drive home, which was a 45-minute ride, which I did in 23 minutes.
Oh, from the airport.
Yeah.
Here. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, back home.
So when I have to make time, I can do it, right? But my point in telling you about my driving is that there are very many times I'll be driving, and I'll be like, U-turn! And I'm either looking at a car or looking at a house. Because
Yeah.
I saw something that just like the coin in your fist or your hand, it's like I saw something and I recognized it as a house that I should look at. It could be a small sign in the window, it could be a for rent sign, it could be a for sale by owner sign, it could be a vacant house, it could be none of the above, and I just see tall grass and certain things and I'm like, son of a gun.
Yeah.
And I'll stop. And you know that. I mean, I haven't done it recently, but there's been a lot of times where I go chase down houses, right? And I buy them. Right?
Yep.
So it's just like the coins. You just didn't even look, right? They're under your nose and you didn't even see them. So I get this a lot with coaching prospects. They tell me they're going to make a deal first, then use that money to pay me, right? But wouldn't know a deal if it was staring them in the face. They don't know what they don't know, which is why they need someone like me who can see deals where most don't see it.
Yeah.
They're losing deals they don't even know they have. Now, it's interesting because my coaching group is a settled group. I don't have a lot of clients. I've got I never was above 20, but I got my dozen or so clients, maybe a little bit more. I'm very picky on who I put in. I don't even promote it anymore that I do coaching. It's just by word of mouth. I do interviews here and there. I'm selective. I used to do several of them a week. Now I do barely one or two a month or three a month because I've kind of that's how I want it. The reason why is because my coaching group is settled into the value I bring them is not so much teaching them how to do real estate. At this point, they've been around enough. My value to them is they want me to check their deals to make sure it's a good deal. So I've noticed that the coaching has changed a lot because they know how to find deals. They know what to say. I mean, there's always questions, but they know what to say. And the value of me is to Like yesterday, I spoke to a coaching client, and he has a deal that he's supposed to close on Friday, and they're having trouble with, and there's liens on the house. And he's
Yeah.
like, I know you have something to say about that. And I had 2 or 3 different things for him to do that he had never even thought of. An IRS lien. I know I can get rid of an IRS lien on a house. And I told him how I could do that. Right? Legally, by the way. Right? So, anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about that. So, my point is that the coaching is to help you notice these deals, these coins in your hand, because you'll be like, hey, let me see that 1945 like quarter. You know this thing is worth like $4,300 or $4,500? No. Right? So, like they say, Peter, you don't know what you don't know. Right? And blindfolded, you don't know it.
Yeah, right.
And like Ron LeGrand says all the time, you think education's expensive? Try ignorance. All right, so enough of that. Let's move on. How can we get quick paychecks and notice the deals hidden in plain sight? Well, just like the coin analogy, I'm going to point out what to look for. And I have a list. I didn't count them. Let me see here. I think it's 3 or 4 things. First thing you need to know is the first place to look for hot leads is on Facebook Marketplace under the for rent section. Or, like we talked about back in podcast number 345, you should, in your city or your farm area, where you're deal hunting, you should go in and look for groups, like estate groups, or tag sales is a big one. Because if somebody's having a big tag sale or an estate sale, they're probably selling the house.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Or Zillow for sale by owner. Right? I'm going to give you a list of websites here in a few minutes, right? Of where you can go on ads that most people don't go to. Right? And you could go there manually. This is doing it manually.
Yeah.
Okay? And what I would do on Facebook, because Facebook doesn't have phone numbers, right? Craigslist is another one.
Right.
Right? So what I would do is I would type to any one of these people a message, which is, would you be willing to rent for a year or two and then sell to me? And the person that raises their hand by saying, what does that mean? Or how does that work? Or can I get more information? They're the person you want to get on the phone with.
Yep.
Right? And when you get on the phone with them, you're going to want to ask them, what's their price? Would they be willing to take monthly payments till you can get them paid off? If they say no, would they be willing to take a discount? And then figure out how long you could do all that. Like, what's the duration of the payments? Could you go 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And if they're willing to take a discount, how long will they be willing to wait for the discount? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
Yep.
And then, of course, if you're doing payments, they're going to want to often talk about a deposit. They don't all, down payment money. They don't all ask for that, but some do. Right?
Yeah. It's funny. A lot of times they don't even bring it up. They really don't.
Right. So, well, most of them don't.
Yeah.
So you could do the same thing on Zillow. So there are plenty of houses that you could figure out. We used to have an ant farm. And what we did is we would get soccer moms. We put an ad in the paper for soccer moms. So they would drop the kids off at school. They'd have, 3-4 hours where they could go do stuff. And they would nowadays it's easy because you got cell phones with cameras. And we'd ask them for a picture of the for sale by owner house from the front, then the left-hand street view and a right-hand street view. And we would pay them, I think, $10 for the picture. Right? Yep. We'd give them an area, so they had their own zone where they would drive, usually around their house, or their own city, wherever you are, depends how big you are. And they would send us pictures of for sale by owners with the phone numbers. Then we would pay them $25 if they would knock on the door of a neighbor and get a phone number or get more information, right?
Yep.
So, like the person's name and if they can give us, pertinent details.
The Stone Age.
Yeah. Well, it worked. I mean, we used to get a lot of people and we would call them. And
that was fancy for those days.
right.
Now it looks like you actually had to go, you couldn't just go on your computer at home and search. Yeah. But that's what we had.
It sounds gross, and I'm sorry that I'm crude sometimes, but everybody sits on the toilet once a day at least. Most people. 99.9% of the people, unless you got some medical issue and you aren't, like you're constipated or something like that. So you're sitting on the toilet. How hard is it to type in, would you be willing to rent a house would you be willing to rent for a year or two and then sell to me? And then copy and paste it 24 times. So you write it once, and then copy and paste it on Messenger, on Facebook Messenger 25 times.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason, you could be the busiest person in the world. You could do it while you're having lunch. You could do it not while you're driving, but if somebody else is driving and you're in a car, you're in a passenger, you could do it then. There's got to be 5 or 10 minutes. And if you do that, you'll kick up traffic. You'll get people that will respond to you, right?
Yep.
So that's like a manual way to do it. Now, if you want an automated way to do it, then I suggest you go to creative-reply.com/advanced-creative-masterclass to see how we do it, fully explained, nothing held back. It's actually a masterclass, and we show people how we find deals and what we do, how we sign the documents. Everything's in that system. It's all push button.
Mm-hmm.
So that's creative-reply.com/advance-creative-masterclass. The link will be in the chat, or wherever you're watching us. The link will be there.
In description.
Yeah, in the description. If you guys still want to do it manually, let's move on to the second thing I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
Call for rent ads. For rent ads. Now, I'm going to give you a list of places that you can go to do this. Okay, so you should write them down. I'm going to read them twice. I'm going to read them once. I'm going to pause, and then I'm going to go back and read them again so you can write them down.
Yep.
So A, meaning the first one, rent.com. B, classifiedads.com. C, doorsteps.com. D, hotpads.com. E, Zumper, Zumper.com. F, homefinder.com. That's a paid service. G, housesforrent.ws. I don't know what that means. H, for rentbyowner.com. So I'm going to read them again. Rent.com, classifiedads.com, doorsteps.com, hotpads.com, Zumper, Zumper.com, homefinder.com, housesforrent.ws. I think that's US. That might be US. Houses for Rent US.
I've seen US. I haven't seen WS.
Yeah, so in case WS doesn't work, then do US. And forrentbyowner.com.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 8 places that you can go to find somebody that has a house for sale online. Okay, now I want to prepare you for this because a lot of these properties will not be the owners.
Yeah.
Instead of property manager. So just get them on the phone, the property managers, and ask if the owner would consider a rent-to-own choice. Now, that's a little bit dangerous to do. I would ask if the owner would consider talking about selling, and make sure the person you're talking to on the phone knows that they will get a commission, or you're
Yeah.
not going to cut them out of the deal,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the point is that if it is a realtor that's doing it, they'll get some sort of commission, right?
Yeah.
So your percentage of offers to deals will be high. But you do one of these a day, which, by the way, only takes about 30 minutes. After a few weeks, maybe 30 to 45 days, you'll find a deal. It's outflow. Outflow begets deals. Get out there and get sellers to know what you do. You got to let people know what you do. Agreed?
Right. And I mean, there's also the mystical approach to this. If you do enough work, something should show up from someplace. I've done that. I think everyone's done it. You don't believe it, but you just keep pushing. And like your neighbor comes by and says, hey, my cousin wants to sell their house next town over. Could you help him? Or something will happen. Or one of those property managers that wasn't helpful finds that something has to get sold that he can't do. And maybe he even calls you. Who knows?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So the interesting thing here is that real estate is made to do it, not learn it.
Mm.
So what does that mean?
Well, I think we've all run into people that are in real estate, and you find out they've been doing it for decades. And how'd you learn it? I don't know. I just started buying them.
Right.
They winged it totally, and they probably made a bunch of mistakes. Maybe their uncle knew something, or their cousin, but they just winged it, and then found better ways to do it. And here they are, decade or two, 3 later, with a bunch of properties.
Right.
And then you find the guys who spend $50,000, $60,000 with gurus that don't have a house yet. So, you know. I mean, I went to music school. This guy went to music school. This guy went to Berkeley. Beatles didn't go nowhere. No place. So, you know, sometimes things work. Just do it.
Right.
Learn.
So I'm going to tell our listeners right now how to make millions and millions and millions of dollars without an education. Ready?
Yep.
Find and speak to a motivated seller. So I had a coaching client I was talking to this week that was from another coaching group.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like badgering me, which I normally don't do, but I tried to help him before, and he's kind of a little bit thick-headed. And I just kept telling you got to talk to motivated sellers. So 37 minutes I spent on the phone with him, and I just kept saying the same answer, just talk to motivated sellers. So here's the reason why I say that. If you don't know how to do a creative real estate deal, or you don't know how to do real estate at all, which I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you have some idea. You've listened to somebody other than just us in this podcast, right? The trick is, if you find a motivated seller, the difference between a motivated seller and a non-motivated seller, which we call a suspect, that's wrong the grand language, right? The prospect or the motivated seller says yes more than they say no. The suspect or not motivated seller says no more than they say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So here's my point. If you get on the phone with a motivated seller, which is hard to hear because you've heard, if you made 100 phone calls, you probably spoke to 98 or 99 people that told you no. Mm-hmm. And now somebody's telling you yes, and you didn't notice it because you had 98 or 99 people tell you no, and you just think it's another one of them. So you might miss it, right? So the point that I'm trying to make here is that the motivated seller they just want to sell. They're motivated. They're not desperate.
Yeah.
They're motivated, right? And that means that they'll do what it's going to take, and they will allow you to make mistakes. They're not judging you. They're just, they want the results. So they'll allow you to trip on your feet. They'll allow you to make mistakes as long as you stay in communication with them and say, oh, damn, I screwed up. I shouldn't have done that. I wish I had the ability to tell somebody, this is my first deal, or this is, I'm new at this. Can you help me do the deal with you? Obviously, I can't do that because that's a lie. But my point is in the beginning, if you tell your sellers that you're new at this and you're learning and you want to help them, you're dedicated to them. What they want is dedication.
Yeah.
And you have resources like me or other people, like our support groups. I talk about the Let's Talk Real Estate chat group or support group to me or Facebook or wherever you go for support. You could get somebody to help you enough to be able to at least get that deal moving.
Yeah.
Right? Minimally go to your RIA, your local RIA, or an attorney's office or a closing agent. There's always a way. When you have a specific problem, there's always a way to figure it out if you outflow enough. Right? So is this making sense?
Yeah. From one of the earlier podcasts we did, if you have any confusion, question, you're concerned, you find who to talk to.
Right.
Like, just one of our coaching guys, and I saw that too. I knew what one of your answers was going to be, at least on that. I'll let you take that one. But yes, who to talk to, whether it's us, someone else like your lawyer. Hey, I got this thing. Do you know what to do? He'll tell you.
Right.
Right.
And if you don't know what to say to a seller, you can say to them, I've never been asked that before, or I never thought of that. You know what? Let me check with my mentor. Let me check with, my friends, or let me go figure it out. And I'll give you a call back tomorrow. And they appreciate that.
You sound more like a real person then.
Right.
I'm a teacher. I've taught a lot of classes. I do music and all. I do a lot of different things. I don't know every answer.
Right.
Anybody who pretends to is called a liar.
Right.
And I wouldn't trust somebody like that. You're much more credible when you say what you just said. So my relief to people who are worried about talking to somebody, you're not supposed to know all the answers. You're not expected to, and you don't have to.
And not to mention, the best way to build trust is to have your actions match your words.
Yeah.
So if you say, I'm going to go find out, and I'll call you back tomorrow at 2, and you call them back tomorrow at 2 and say, hey, here's what I found. That's building more rapport than knowing the answer.
Yep.
It actually works to your advantage to not know things.
Yeah, and then if he has other problems, you go, I'll ask this guy. He's a problem solver. He's got some kind of connection. He's a problem solver. Maybe this guy can sell my house. Because these guys are motivated, probably cannot use a realtor for various reasons. There's not enough equity in the home. Closing costs too much. It's in too much of bad shape for a realtor. There's lots of reasons.
Right.
And they'll be nice to us because we're like the solution. If we can't do it, maybe nobody can. So they'll give us a break. They're not looking for the Mercedes out front and the slick pointy shoes.
Exactly.
Right? Although I want to buy some someday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No.
All right, step number 3.
Yeah.
Here's another thing you can do. So I want to tell you before I even start this that I have been doing real estate for 30 years. I'm going to say 25 years at this point. Full time. Mm-hmm. I've done nothing. There was a 6-year period where I consulted for automotive repair shops, but I still did real estate part-time.
Yeah.
Right? And I quit that job because I wrote an email about this the other day because I had a conversation with my boss at the time, who wasn't really my boss, but he was the owner of the business, and he was trying to get me to stay to the point where he wanted to make me a partner of another business. And I'm like, no. But here was my conversation with my boss, and I would like to have my listeners have this conversation with their boss. And the conversation went like this. Mr. Boss, you walk into the office, you got the briefcase in hand, and you're ready to have a conversation, right?
Yep.
And you say, Mr. Boss, we need to talk because I got a little bit of a problem. Oh, what's up, Bill? Well, problem is that I was taking a look at my income, and I realized that 80% of my time is for this company, and it produces about 20% of my income. And 20% of my time, I do real estate, and it produces about 80% of my income. So I'm struggling with, why should I stay?
Math don't lie.
Mm-hmm. So I'm telling you that when I talk about what I'm going to talk about right now, A vast majority of our leads came from this strategy for years, decades. It changed during COVID though. So contact out-of-area owners. And I use handwritten yellow letters for a very long time, for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you could do this online, but I'm going to tell you how to do this the old-fashioned way, because the old-fashioned stuff works.
Yep.
So here's what we did, because you have to realize, when I started, there was no online.
Yeah, right. When you started, there's no cell phones.
Yeah, exactly. That too. Yeah.
Think of that.
And computers. Right? So I go to the city hall, tax assessor's office, and I ask for a tax roll or a grand list. And they give that in Excel format. Now, not all cities do this, because some cities use a third-party company. But if you ask them, they can get it. It's called the Freedom of Information Act. In that Excel spreadsheet, I would get owner's name, property address, mailing address, type of dwelling, list, sold, date, baths, beds, etc. What makes an out-of-area owner's list is that the tax bill gets mailed to a different location than the property.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do is I would go to the zip code section and I sort the list by zip codes that don't match the property address.
Mm-hmm.
So if the two zip codes are different, I would sort those. In other words, the tax bill gets mailed to a different address.
Yeah.
Like I said. Okay? So I would ascend or descend these in Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So once I did that, I would have an out-of-area owner list, because they have different names for it. I call it out-of-area because the owner could be across the street.
Yeah.
Right? But it has a different zip code. Now, your wife does this for us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you did just the zip code, if it was across the street, then you wouldn't know. She goes through and actually checks the addresses as well.
Yeah.
So
a little
if
timely, but you pick up another batch. We just did it. She's working on one right now. The new lists come out after the new year, like around February. So you get new fresh lists.
The grand lists are done in October, and then they reconfigure them, and they usually start having them ready for the public by, like you said, January.
Yep.
And then
So
we
can
just
pay
send
our
a yellow
property
letter.
taxes.
We just send a yellow letter. It's a yellow notebook piece of paper. It says, "Hi, my name is Bill Hawthorne." Obviously, you would use your name. You would use my name. "Hi, my name is Bill Hawthorne. I would like to buy your house at 123 Main Street. Please give me a call, and my phone number is."
Yep.
And then I would put a phone number. Now, I wouldn't change that message. If you wanted to do this the old-fashioned way, what we would do is we would take a white piece of paper, a copy machine piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
We would lay that piece of paper on top of the yellow notebook paper so you can see the lines through the white paper. Mm-hmm. And you would write the letter on the white piece of paper with the lines that you can see through, so you could stay within the lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put hi, right? And then I would leave it blank, and then below the next line is, "My name is Bill Hawthorne. I would like to buy your house at 123 Main Street." And then the next line is, "Please give me a call. Here's my phone number."
Yeah, and you leave the address blank too, right?
Mm-hmm. So what I would do is I make a master copy. So I would make that on a white piece of paper on top of the yellow piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I would do is I would go buy notebooks, with yellow paper. I would try to buy what we call narrow margins, because they were 20-pound paper. Some of the yellow notebook pads are less than 20-pound paper. They're 10 or 15-pound paper, and sometimes those will jam up a copy machine.
Mm-hmm.
So if your copy machine jams, that's the reason why.
Yeah.
But most of the time it didn't. So we would take the white piece of paper, put it on the copy machine, and we would take the yellow notepads and run it through the copy machine as if it was copy machine paper, and it would print out. Right?
Yeah.
Now what I would do is I would sit down with my list, and all I would have to do is write the person's name and the address in there, and we were done. We didn't have to write every single yellow letter individually.
Right. By the way, what color ink are we using?
So in this case, it would be black, but you could use red works best. They say red works best, but black is fine.
Yeah, we use red in the copy machine, and our last printer, it came out a different color than the pink ink, but we got a new one, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So the red comes out pretty nice.
Yeah. So I mean, you could do that if you want. Red or blue works. Red is proven to be better, but and then the other thing is that we would use invitation size envelopes. The other thing is we would put just our address. So I would put 123 Main Street and New York, New York. And we wouldn't put our name there. So on the top left-hand side, it just said the address and then the city and state and zip code. Yeah. The other thing that, believe it or not, works really well is you don't lick the envelopes, you fold them inside the envelope. So it looks like it's coming from grandma. Right? So you would just fold it in, you wouldn't actually lick the envelopes. So those are the tricks that we found. Next thing I want to talk about before we bug out here, we got 15 more minutes. So the phone number. What phone number are you going to use? Right? So what I suggest is, I have a few of them here. These are all I've heard through the years. So the first one, which is the one I use, is freedomvoice.com. freedomvoice.com. That's a paid service. It costs you, I think, $10 a month, and you get a voicemail. The other one, which I used for a very long time, I don't anymore because I use Creative REI Replay now, but hostednumbers.com. That's $15 a month. Get you one mailbox. The thing with hosted numbers that I like is the additional phone numbers are $5 a piece. So like if you had one phone number for yellow letters, another phone number for in episode number 345, I think it was, we were talking about the dollar printed business cards.
Yeah.
You leave them like Home Depot and stuff like that. That would have a different number on it. Your signs would have a different number on it. The reason why you're doing that is because in hosted numbers you would get a dashboard, and you can go in and you could weekly or monthly, whatever you want to do, you can see how many calls you're getting from that marketing. Now, I've just told you something that sounds really simple, but it took me 15 years to figure this out. Here's what you do. When you put out your marketing at first, you try a whole bunch of things. When you start to notice the statistics of your phone numbers, you're going to realize if you've got 5 campaigns running, you're going to realize that one pulls stronger than the other 4.
Yep.
So what you do is you pull back on the other 4 monetarily, and you pour the money into the one that works. Right? So it seems simple when I'm telling you that, but believe me, it took me 15 years to figure that out. Right? Because we just, we didn't have a way to track it. So when you're using the phone numbers, and if you think that you have a phone number like a doctor says, I don't want to promote a different phone number because that's my phone number and I've had it for 30 years. Everybody knows my phone number. Well, that's fine. If they know your phone number, you're not changing it. What we would do is we would have the call forwarding feature from that phone number go right to their front desk. So in our case, we don't need to do that. We're going to have all of our phone numbers go right to the same voicemail.
Yep.
Right. But the point is you would track them. So that's hosted numbers. Line 2 for cell phones is a paid service, so you can get a second phone number for your cell phone. It's called line 2 for cell phones. Because, by the way, you should not be answering the phone. You should let it go to the voicemail, and you should call them back later. Another one is Ding Tone. Ding Tone. That's a free service. Free Tone is a free service. And, of course, Google Voice is a free service.
Yep.
Right? Google Voice is what most people use. Right? Problem with Google Voice is you can't. My message is 5.5 minutes long in Google Voice. You can't leave that message. So my message is designed to weed people out. So you prospect suspects. I try to weed out as many prospects as I can by having them jump through hoops in my marketing. And if they get to all the way to where I want them to be, they jump through 2 or 3 hoops in my marketing, then I know they got a pretty good shot at doing a deal with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, when you make these calls, right, or when you get these calls, when you receive these calls, like I said, let them go to voicemail and call them back once you have time to do the prospect suspect form or get their information.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which, by the way, our prospect suspect form could be found at flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. The prospect suspect form is there with a bunch of other stuff too. Okay. If you just ask all the questions on the form, it's like a script. Okay. Plus, I've added some good questions that will get you, if they come off the script, they'll get you back onto the script. Okay. Also, there's these 3 strategies will get you doing outflow, like I just told you about. Okay, so the 3 different strategies will get you some pretty good outflow. And here's what you should do after you listen to this podcast. Pick one. Get it going and running. And what I mean by up and running is it produces some leads. It's actually working. People are calling you and it's actually working.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have that going, come back to this podcast and listen again. Right? And do a second one. Right? Until you have all 3 campaigns up and running each week and producing you leads. Okay?
Yeah.
Once you get that going, deals will fall in your lap. This is a fact. Make sense?
It does. I mean, it's not going to happen if you sit in the house, go online and look at houses.
Right. So, last thing is you can't buy a house or you can't buy real estate without making an offer first. It's just impossible. Mm-hmm. So the only way you're going to make an offer is you either need to know where a house is, right, Peter? No, no.
Because the house won't talk to you. I've got a house up the street from me, 15 years, almost finished being constructed and sitting there, unoccupied, 15 years. And I've talked to it many times. You know what it says? Exactly. I actually found the person and mailed him some letters. Still no response. The house is empty.
I have a house 2 blocks from me that's vacant, and I can't figure out who the bank is. It's been vacant for 2 years.
Wow.
It's in pre-foreclosure. They have a sign on the front door.
And town hall doesn't know. Well, my town hall didn't know who owned it either. I actually told them, I gave them the bank I found somehow, and I gave it to the assessor's office myself.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't find it, man.
How about that house that we looked at in Newington?
One in West
time?
Hartford, up the street from me, down the road.
Yeah, it was West Hartford. Is that where it was? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Bank didn't even know they owned it.
Exactly. Well, they said they didn't. Yeah, and then we had to track it, and it went back and forth. Oh boy, what a mess! Crazy. You think somebody would know? It's a house.
So the bottom line is, you don't look for houses because houses don't sell. Don't sign the documents at the closing.
Yep.
So you need to talk to people that control or own those houses, right? So you need to find those. So the first thing you need to do is figure out, okay, how do I find them?
Yep.
There's congregations of these people, right? Like for example, out of area owners is a congregation of people that own houses but don't live in them. They're interested in getting income. You're interested in giving them income and taking the landlord obligations away from them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a match made in heaven. A for sale by owner is a person that intends to sell a house and would like to get offers. An expired listing is a fantastic place to go because they've already been through the realtor charade for 6 months usually or more, and don't want to do that again and don't know what they don't want to sell it on their own and they don't know the other solutions they have. And you can call them up and tell them. So these are congregations of people that would be most likely willing to hear your offers. So you need to call them up or contact them and say, hey, I can give you an offer on your house. Would you like that? And the response should be yes, if they're trying to sell a house. Right? So you need to get out there and you need to find these people and you need to communicate with them. And I'm not talking about texting them or sending them an email or sending them a letter. That's a lead. The definition of a lead is a one-way communication. Name on the list that you can send a letter to or send a text to or something like that is a lead. What you want is prospects. Prospects are two-way communication. And I'm not talking about texting. You're not going to buy a damn house on text. You need to talk to people. It's a people-to-people business. And if you're afraid of people and don't like to talk to people, get out of the business because it's not going to happen. Carvana is trying to do that with the car business. You know, buy cars without salespeople. And I got to tell you, I was in the car business for 27 years. I got to tell you, just from around listening to people, you know, family and being at parties and, you know, the smoke shop, you know, the cigar shop. And I have not heard anything except, oh my God, they're a nightmare. Steve, our buddy Steve, the asbestos guy,
Yeah.
he had an employee that bought a car from them, and it took them they couldn't get the title. And they kept giving him temporary plates. They gave him so many temporary plates that they couldn't give him temporary plates anymore. Motor vehicle wouldn't let him do it.
They're trying to sell it without having the title in the first place?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Okay, so I don't know how you could make this a peopleless environment. Okay, so the thing that you're going to want to do is once you talk to somebody, you're going to want to find out what's the price. Will they take payments? If not, will they give you a discount? If they're going to give you payments or give you a discount, how much time do you have before they want to be paid off? And then, of course, if they ask for a deposit, then you have to figure out a deposit, right? So those are the four main things you need to talk about. What is the price, their best price? What are the payments? Like, can I make monthly payments? Like, you know, Peter, how much? Let's just do it real quick. So, Peter, how much are you asking for the house?
I'm asking you to go $284.
Actually, let's back up. Peter, my name is Bill Halter. I'm calling about the house for sale at 123 Main Street. You got a minute to talk?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Good. So, the house is still for sale?
Yeah.
Okay. And whose name is on the deed?
It's my house.
Okay.
I'm on the deed.
Nobody else?
No, just me.
Okay. So now I know I have a decision maker and I have a house for sale. It's worth, how long did that take me? 30 seconds.
Yep.
How much are you asking for the house, Peter?
$284.
Good. So at 284, the only way I could pay that amount is if I were to make monthly payments until it's paid off. Is that something we could talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, so if he said yes, then we would go into the first thing I would say is, okay, well, how much do you pay on the property right now?
Oh, my expenses. About $1,200.
Okay, so you have a mortgage?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we would go down the line there. If he said no, so Peter, would you be willing to talk about payments?
If I said no to what?
If you go back to, would you be willing to talk about payments?
Oh, and I said no. No, I don't want payments. No, I don't want this to drag on. No.
Okay, so you want to sell it for all cash.
Oh yeah, preferably, sure.
Okay, so what's the best price you could do?
You're talking a direct sale, no realtor. $269.
Okay, good. So have you ever sold a house before?
Not lately, no.
Okay, so there's a cost to sell a house. It's between 12 and 15%. And then we go through that whole script.
Yeah.
And then at that point, we'll get him down to a lower number. And if he wants all cash, then I would say to him, so Peter, would you consider signing an option agreement with me? Let me go find your buyer for you so they can bring cash. Give me 90 days or 60 days, 60 to 90 days. The realtor would ask you 6 months anyways.
Yep.
So I can do it quicker than that. And that's basically what you're trying to do. But in that script, I got the price, I got the payment amount. If it's monthly payments to him, that's good. If not, then I need to know how much he's going to take for a discount. Like the payment is one payment at $269, right?
Yeah.
Or and then how much time will you give me? Will you let me do 60 days or 90 days, or will you let me do 90 years? Right? So you figure that out. And then, of course, deposit. And that will give you enough information to make money on any one of my 7 deals, which you can find at Creative, excuse me, which you can find at Flipping Houses for Rookies. Or if you want automation, like I mentioned earlier, and you want leads to come into your account every single day, we put them in your account. Once you're a member of Creative REI Replay, we put leads right into your account. We hook them to the right campaigns and say the right things so they text you back. Once they text you back, you can get on the phone with them. And we have a script in there, which is much like what I just showed you, except a little bit more detailed. You go through the script, and the script will give you the 5 or 6 numbers that you need. Once you get those 5 or 6 numbers, you can hit. We have a calculator. You put those numbers in those 5 or 6 numbers in the calculator. You click generate offer, and there's all my deals are there. You know, slot deal, sandwich lease option transfer, option deal, all the way down the list. And they light up with a red light, meaning you can't do them. A yellow light means if you adjust them, you could do it. Or a green light means go, baby, go. You click on the green light offer you want to make to the seller, and all the numbers are on the right, and there's a checklist on the left-hand side that explains what you got to go over with the seller while you're on the phone with them so they understand. When you're all done, you hit save. It automatically populates and generates a memorandum, and right while you're on the phone with them, you can send it to them in an email, and they can sign it while you're on the phone with them. Then we also have it so that once they sign the memorandum, and by the way, at that point, you know the person's motivated, and you have a motivated seller. Now you go do your due diligence. You do the deal meeting section of it. You go do your due diligence. You check on the property. You make sure it's worth what they said it's worth. You make sure it's not dysfunctional. You make sure the neighborhood's good. You do all your due diligence, and then you go to paperwork. And in Creative REI Reply, we have buttons where if you're doing an option deal, it generates all the option paperwork. If you're doing a subject to deal, it generates all the subject to paperwork, and it populates based on the information that you put in the calculator. It populates all the documents the way you want them, the way I want them to read. So you don't even have to fill out the documents anymore. We do it for you, and you download them and you send them to your seller, and they sign them, or you get on a Zoom call with them and you sign them with the seller, and you're done. Then once you get the property and you get all the paperwork signed, there's a whole section in Creative REI Reply that sells the house for you. All you need to do, which we show you how to write the ad, you write an ad. We have example ads that you can use. You post it on Zillow and Facebook if you so desire, with the right phone number that you would get from Creative REI Reply. They come back into Creative REI Reply, and it completely automates the system. They show up at the front doorstep. They text you with a driver's license, a picture of a driver's license, and it automates the entire process and puts them into your buyer system. So every time you advertise a house, you pick up 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 buyers. So when you get the next house that you want to sell, you now have a buyer's list that you can promote to before you put the house on the market. And it's all automated, all done for you. It's all push button. It takes an hour to set it up with one of our onboarding assistants, and then you just go. Okay, so that's how it works. It works for a lot of students that way. And if you want to automate it, if you got a job and you got a few bucks and you want to spend it, and you don't want to do all this stuff manual we're talking about, that's another way to do it. I'm not here to pitch it. I'm just here to tell you that it exists. And if you want to go the easy route, that's the way to go.
Well, you know, people either have the time but not the money,
right,
or have the money but not the time.
That's exactly right. That's
so there's
covered both.
Sorry, no more excuses. Yep. One way will work. Pick one.
So, unique ways to find creative real estate deals. The Realtors Overlook. We've covered that all today. They overlook these deals. Oh, by the way, the last thing I want to say as a punchline, all these documents that I use are inside any Realtor's MLS. Most of them don't even know they're there. The reason why is because if they use those documents, they wouldn't get full asking price. The real mistake or the real problem with the Realtor system is they get paid on the closing, the sale price. So they get a commission from the sale price, which isn't even fair either, because I said there's black holes in the system. Like for example, I sell for $200,000. The seller, the seller and the realtor decide that. The realtor goes out and finds a buyer, writes a purchase and sales contract for $200,000, we'll say. Gets an inspection done, and I need to do $15,000 worth of work. I negotiate to get it to be $10,000 worth of work. I'm now only netting $190, but the realtor's getting paid on $200. So those are the reasons why I bash the Realtor system, is because they have dark holes.
I think they need another step on their ethics code, Bill.
Yeah, exactly. So when you come along and do this with your sellers and your buyers, you are considered the hero, and there is no reason why you can't make deals. And this is why this podcast was written. So thank you for being with us today. Make sure you go to, if you need help, you go to WhatsApp Messenger and get signed up for Let's Talk Real Estate. Also, if you need help, one-on-one help, you can go to flippinghouses4rookies.com and hit the support button. Make sure you subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Make sure you leave us a review. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but also leave us a review. Hopefully it's a 5-star review, and let others know what you think about the podcast. Okay? So that's the end of podcast number 347. We're over and out. We'll talk to you on the next episode. Have a good week.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.